The Hook, the old house, stood on a quiet street hidden behind tall trees and broken fences. Most people walked past it without looking twice. But inside that house lived a woman named Sarah and her teenage son Daniel. To others, their life looked normal. But the walls of that house carried secrets that Sarah never wanted to face again. One rainy afternoon, Daniel was exploring the attic. Dust floated in the air like tiny ghosts as he moved old boxes and broken furniture. He liked searching for forgotten things. But that day he found something different. It was a clock. The clock was small, made of dark wood with golden hands, but something about it felt wrong. The glass over its face was cracked, and its hands were stuck at the same time. Exactly 12:47. No matter how much Daniel tilted it or shook it, the clock would not move. Daniel called out, "Mom, look what I found." Sarah climbed up the stairs slowly, her face pale when she saw the clock in his hands. For a moment she froze. Her lips trembled before she whispered, "Put that down, Daniel. Right now." Daniel frowned. "It's just a clock," but Sarah's eyes told another story. She reached forward quickly and tried to take it from him, but Daniel held it back. He was curious. He had never seen his mother so afraid of an object before. Sarah's voice was sharp now. "This clock doesn't belong to us. Don't ever touch it again." Daniel wanted to ask why, but Sarah turned away and climbed down the attic ladder without saying more. He stood there staring at the frozen hands of the clock. Why would his mother react like that? That night Daniel could not sleep. The rain had stopped, but the silence of the house was heavy. He kept thinking about the clock. He felt as if it was calling to him. Finally he got up, tiptoed into the attic, and brought it down to his room. The moment he placed the clock on his desk, the air felt colder. The shadows in the room stretched longer, even though the lamp was small. Daniel shivered. He touched the golden hands gently, trying to move them forward, but they did not move. Instead, he heard a faint sound. Tick, tick, tick. Daniel froze. He pulled the clock closer to his ear. At first it was silent. Then again, tick. Slow, heavy, unnatural. He quickly placed it back on the desk and turned off the lamp. Lying in bed, he tried to convince himself it was his imagination. But then he heard another sound. A door creaking. Daniel sat up straight. His bedroom door was closed, but he heard the noise again, this time from the hallway. He got up and peeked outside. The hall was empty, but the door to the attic was wide open. He remembered closing it. His heart raced. He whispered to himself, "It's just the wind." But then from the darkness of the attic came a whisper. A soft voice calling his name. "Daniel." He slammed the door shut and ran back to his bed. He pulled the blanket over his head, trying to shut out the sound. Slowly, the whisper faded. The next morning, he woke up to see the clock still on his desk. But something was different. The glass was no longer cracked. It was smooth, almost new, and the golden hands were glowing faintly, still stuck at 12:47. When Sarah entered his room and saw the clock, she gasped. Her face turned white and she grabbed it angrily. "I told you to leave it alone," she shouted, her voice breaking. Daniel stared at her, shocked. He had never heard her raise her voice like that before. "Why are you so scared of it?" "It's just a clock." Sarah's eyes filled with tears, but she wiped them away quickly. She whispered, "That clock has been here longer than this house, and it has taken more from us than you can ever imagine." Before Daniel could ask what she meant, she carried the clock back to the attic and locked the door. But Daniel's curiosity only grew. What did she mean the clock had taken something? Why was it stuck at 12:47, and why did it feel like the house itself came alive when it was near? That night, when the hour hand reached 12:47 on his bedside alarm, Daniel woke up with a start. He didn't know why, but his body felt heavy, as if someone had shaken him awake. He looked toward the attic. The door was open again, and from upstairs he heard the sound of footsteps. Slow, dragging footsteps moving across the floor. Sarah woke too, hearing the same noise. She rushed out of her room and pulled Daniel close. Her hands trembled as she whispered, "It's starting again." Daniel looked at her in confusion. "What's starting?" Sarah didn't answer. She only held him tighter as the footsteps grew louder. The house, once silent, was alive with something unsettling. The first sign. The next day felt heavy in the house, as if the walls remembered what had happened at night. Sarah tried to act normal. She cooked breakfast, cleaned the kitchen, and spoke about small things. But Daniel could see the fear in her eyes. She avoided looking at the attic door. Daniel wanted to ask again about the clock, but Sarah cut him off each time. She said only one thing. "Stay away from that attic. Promise me." He promised with his lips, but his heart did not agree. The picture of the glowing golden hands was stuck in his mind. The whispers, the footsteps, the way his mother trembled, it all made him want to know more. That evening, when Sarah left for work, Daniel stayed home alone. The silence of the house wrapped around him. He turned on the TV, but the sound felt empty. His eyes kept drifting toward the ceiling where the attic was. Finally, he climbed up again. The attic was dark, the air colder than the rest of the house. He pushed open the box where his mother had hidden the clock. To his surprise, the lock was broken. Someone or something had already opened it. The clock lay inside, glowing faintly as if waiting for him. He picked it up and whispered, "What are you?" At that moment, the light bulb above flickered. The shadows stretched across the attic walls. Daniel felt his chest tighten, but he couldn't look away. Then, in the cracked mirror leaning against the wall, he saw it. A figure. Not his own reflection. It was taller, thin, with hollow eyes staring back at him. The mouth moved, though no sound came. Daniel gasped and dropped the clock. The mirror shattered. The figure vanished. The clock hit the floor but did not break. Its golden hands were still stuck at 12:47, shining brighter now, as if feeding on his fear. Terrified, Daniel grabbed the clock and ran downstairs. He locked it in his desk drawer, but even then he could feel its presence. When Sarah came home later, Daniel stayed quiet. He wanted to tell her, but her tired face stopped him. He thought maybe it was only his imagination. Maybe he had dreamed it, but that night the house proved him wrong. At midnight, Daniel woke up again without reason. He sat up, sweating. The drawer where he had hidden the clock rattled softly, shaking as if something inside wanted to get out. Daniel stood frozen, staring at it. Then came the whisper. "Daniel." This time it was clearer, closer. The voice was female, soft but broken, like someone calling through a wall. Daniel backed away until his back hit the door. His legs wanted to run, but before he could, Sarah opened the door from the outside. She looked pale, her hands trembling. "You heard it too, didn't you?" she whispered. Daniel's eyes widened. "You know about the voice?" Sarah closed the door and sat on the bed, holding her face in her hands. For a long moment she stayed silent. Then she spoke in a low, shaky voice. "That clock, it has never worked like other clocks. When I was your age, I heard it too. The whispers, the footsteps, the shadows." Daniel leaned closer. "Then why do we still have it?" "Why didn't you throw it away?" Sarah looked at him, her eyes shining with tears. "Because you can't throw it away. Every time we tried, it came back. Sometimes in the attic, sometimes in the basement. It always returns at 12:47. Daniel swallowed hard. "But why? What does it want?" Sarah shook her head. "I don't know. My parents told me never to ask questions. They said if you feed it attention, it grows stronger." The drawer rattled louder, cutting her words. Both of them turned toward it. The sound of ticking filled the room, even though the clock had never moved. Tick, tick, tick. Daniel whispered, "It's moving." Sarah's face went pale. She opened the drawer. The clock's golden hands twitched, trying to move forward but snapping back to 12:47 again and again, like it was trapped in time. Suddenly the lamp flickered. The room darkened. On the wall opposite them, a shadow stretched wide. It was the same tall figure Daniel had seen in the attic mirror. Its hand reached out, almost touching the floor. Sarah grabbed Daniel's arm and pulled him close. "Don't look at it," she said, her voice breaking, but Daniel's eyes were fixed. He whispered, "It's trying to come through." The shadow grew larger, filling half the wall. Its mouth opened in a silent scream. Then just as suddenly, the light came back. The shadow vanished. The clock stopped glowing. Sarah locked the clock in a box and shoved it back into the attic, her hands shaking. She looked at Daniel with tired, broken eyes. "This is only the beginning," she said. "It will get worse." Daniel felt cold all over. He wanted to believe his mother was wrong, but deep inside he knew she was telling the truth. Hidden history. The house was no longer quiet. Every corner carried weight. as if the walls listened and remembered. Sarah and Daniel moved through their days like shadows themselves, never speaking about the clock, though it was always in their thoughts. But silence did not protect them. One evening, as rain tapped against the windows, Daniel sat in the living room with an old photo album. He thought maybe learning more about the past could explain the strange events. Most of the pictures were normal: birthdays, family dinners, holiday mornings. But at the very end of the album, he found something unusual: a picture of the house. It looked older, darker, the yard was empty, and the windows were bare. A date was written on the back, 1904. That confused him. The house they lived in was built much later, in the 1950s. How could there be a picture of it decades before? Daniel carried the photo to his mother. "Mom, look at this. How is this possible?" Sarah's face drained of color. She touched the edges of the photo carefully, as if it might burn her. "I told myself I threw this away," she whispered. "What do you mean?" Daniel pressed. Sarah sat down heavily, her hands shaking. "This house is built on top of another. The first house burned down, but its bones remain beneath us. The clock survived that fire. My grandparents never spoke of it, but I know they were afraid of the same things we are seeing now." Daniel frowned. "But what does the clock have to do with the house?" Sarah's voice dropped. "Everything." That night, Daniel couldn't rest. While Sarah tried to sleep, he went back to the attic. Something inside told him answers were waiting there. He pushed aside dusty boxes and broken chairs until his foot caught on a loose floorboard. He bent down, pried it open, and found a small bundle of letters wrapped in yellow cloth. The paper was brittle, the ink faded. His heart pounded as he unfolded the first one. The handwriting was sharp, almost angry. She must not be allowed out. Her words are poison. Her cries weaken the walls. Lock her in the hour where time cannot move. Seal her away. Daniel's breath caught. Another letter read, "She screams every night at 12:47. The house bends to her rage, but we cannot open the door. To free her is to doom us all." His hands trembled. A woman. Locked. Trapped in time. The attic air grew colder as he read the last letter. The words seemed rushed, desperate. "If anyone finds this, know that she is still here. We could not bury her. We could not silence her. The clock holds her, but it will not hold forever." Daniel shoved the letters into his pocket and ran downstairs. He shook his mother awake. "Mom, I found something. You need to see this." Sarah rubbed her tired eyes and read the letters slowly. Her lips moved without sound, and when she finished, her whole body shook. "I remember these," she whispered. "My father found them once. He burned them. I watched the flames. How can they still exist?" Daniel stared at her. Maybe they were never really destroyed. Maybe the house brings them back, just like it brings back the clock. Sarah covered her mouth, trying to steady her breath. This woman, she isn't just a ghost, she's trapped, and the clock is her prison. The room went silent, but then, from above, came the faintest sound. A long, echoing scream. It rattled the windows and froze their blood. It was exactly 12:47. Sarah clutched Daniel's hand. "It's her. She wants us to hear." The scream faded, but in its place came sobs. Low, broken sobs that seemed to seep into the floorboards. Daniel whispered, "We have to help her." Sarah's grip tightened. "No, we can't. If we open that door, we don't know what will come out." Daniel shook his head. "But what if she isn't evil? What if she's just trapped?" Sarah looked at him with fear in her eyes. "I thought the same when I was your age. I wanted to set her free. But my parents told me the truth. She is not only a victim, she is also a curse." Daniel pulled the letters from his pocket again. His eyes burned as he read the lines about screams, poison words, and bending walls. Yet something inside him refused to believe she was only a monster. That night, neither of them slept. Every creak of the house made them jump. Every gust of wind felt like a whisper. In the early hours, as dawn touched the windows, Daniel stood at the attic door. His mother begged him not to, but curiosity pulled him back inside. This time, when he held the clock, he did not only hear whispers. He heard a voice, clearer than before, though still broken. Let me out. The golden hands trembled. For the first time, they moved. The locked hour, the house seemed to breathe at night. The walls groaned. The floorboards sighed. And when the clock reached 12:47, silence fell so thick it pressed against the skin. Daniel had started to count the minutes toward that time. He would stare at his alarm clock, waiting, knowing something would happen. Sarah tried to keep him close, but she was afraid too. The truth was, she had no way to stop it. One stormy night, the hour arrived again. The first sound was the ticking. Slow, heavy, louder than before. The clock upstairs ticked as if its hands were finally free, even though they never moved forward. Tick, tick, tick. Daniel sat up in bed. "Mom," he whispered, "it's starting." Sarah came to his side, holding a candle because the power had gone out again. She didn't answer. She just pulled him close, her eyes fixed on the dark hallway. Then came the second sound, the footsteps, heavy, dragging, moving across the attic floor above their heads. But this time they didn't stay there. They moved down, one step at a time. The attic stairs creaked. Then the hallway boards groaned. The air grew colder. Daniel could see his own breath. Sarah whispered, "Don't look at the door." But Daniel couldn't stop himself. The doorknob rattled. Slowly it turned. The door opened with a long, low creak. A shadow stretched into the room, tall and thin, with arms that almost touched the floor. The candle flickered wildly. Sarah clutched Daniel tighter. "Stay back," she said, her voice shaking. But the shadow didn't move toward them. Instead, it slid across the wall, spreading wider and wider until it filled the room. Then, like a curtain, it pulled back, and they saw something impossible. The room around them changed. The walls peeled away, replaced by old wooden boards blackened by smoke. The bed vanished. The window shattered. Sarah and Daniel stood in the remains of the first house, the one from the photo. And in the middle of the ruined room stood a woman. Her dress was torn, her hair tangled, her face pale like ash. Her eyes glowed faintly, hollow and endless. Her lips moved, whispering words they couldn't hear. Sarah gasped. "It's her." The woman's head snapped toward them. Her voice came sharp and broken. "Let me out." Daniel's knees shook. He tried to step forward, but Sarah held him back. "No, Daniel!" The woman's figure flickered like smoke trying to hold a shape. Her face twisted, shifting from sorrow to rage. She lifted a hand and the whole room shook. The clock appeared in the air between them, glowing, its hands twitching violently against the frozen time. Sarah screamed, "This is the locked hour! We're trapped in it!" The woman's voice grew louder, echoing through the room. "They locked me here. They buried me in silence. You, my blood, you will set me free." Daniel's eyes widened. "Blood, what does she mean?" Sarah's face turned white. She whispered, "She's family. That's why it's always us. She's tied to our bloodline." The woman shrieked, her scream piercing the air. Windows shattered again, though they were no longer in their real house. Daniel fell to his knees, covering his ears. The sound felt like it would break his skull. Then, as suddenly as it began, the noise stopped. The woman stood still, her eyes fixed on Daniel. Slowly, she raised a finger and pointed at him. "You." The clock in the air glowed brighter, its hands twitching faster. Daniel's chest tightened as if invisible ropes bound him. He gasped for air. Sarah ran forward, standing between him and the spirit. "Leave him alone." "Take me instead." The woman tilted her head, her pale face twisting into a smile that was more sorrow than joy. Her voice softened. "Both." The floor beneath them cracked. Flames burst through the boards, but they didn't burn. They only glowed, forming a circle around Sarah and Daniel. The clock's ticking grew furious, louder and louder, until it was all they could hear. Tick, tick, tick. Then everything went black. When Daniel opened his eyes, he was back in his room. The candle was burned out. His alarm clock read 12:48. Only 1 minute had passed, though it felt like hours. Sarah sat beside him, clutching the clock to her chest. Tears ran down her face. She's not just trapped in the clock. She's trapped in the hour, and now she knows us. Daniel shivered, his voice low. "We saw her, Mom. She's real." Sarah nodded slowly, her eyes filled with dread. "And she won't stop until one of us sets her free." The house returned to silence. But the silence was the confrontation. The next day, sunlight poured through the windows, but it brought no comfort. The house felt hollow, as if all warmth had drained away during the night. Daniel sat at the kitchen table, staring at the letters he had found. His mind replayed the woman's scream, her hollow eyes and the way she had pointed at him. Sarah moved quietly, making tea with trembling hands. She had not spoken much since the locked hour. Every so often she glanced at the attic door as if expecting it to burst open. Finally, Daniel broke the silence. "We can't just sit here. We need to do something." Sarah's face hardened. "No, we stay away from the clock. We keep the hour locked. That's the only way." Daniel shook his head. "You saw her. She's not going to stop. She'll come again and again until we deal with her." Sarah slammed her hand against the table, the teacup rattling. "You think I don't know that? I've lived with this my whole life. But fighting her is worse. If you try to confront her, she will take everything from you." Daniel's voice was low but steady. "Then let her try." That night the air felt heavier than ever. Thunder rolled in the distance and the house groaned like it was alive. Daniel had made up his mind. He carried a hammer in his hand, his knuckles white around the handle. Sarah begged him not to. "If you smash it, you don't know what you'll unleash." Daniel's jaw tightened. Better than letting her control us. When the clock struck 12:47, the house shifted. Lights flickered and the temperature dropped. The walls shivered as though breathing. Daniel marched toward the attic, Sarah following close behind, pleading with him. The attic door swung open on its own. Inside, the clock glowed brighter than ever, resting in the center of the floor as if waiting for him. Daniel raised the hammer. "This ends now." But before he could swing, the air burst with sound, her voice sharp and furious. "No!" The shadow woman appeared, larger than before, her body stretching across the attic walls. Her scream knocked Daniel back, the hammer flying from his hand. He hit the floor, gasping for breath. The woman's pale eyes locked on him. "You dare break what holds me?" Daniel scrambled to his feet. "We're not afraid of you." The woman's lips curled into a broken smile. "Not afraid? Then why do you tremble?" Sarah pushed Daniel behind her, standing tall. "You don't belong here. Leave us alone." The woman tilted her head, her voice dropping into a whisper that shook the air. "You are my blood. I belong in you." The attic walls flickered again, peeling away to show the burned remains of the first house. The smell of smoke filled their lungs. Flames danced along the beams, but the fire did not consume. It circled them, trapping them. Daniel's heart pounded. He lunged for the hammer, gripped it tight, and charged at the glowing clock. But before he could strike, invisible hands grabbed him, freezing him mid-air. He gasped as he felt his body pinned. The woman drifted closer, her face inches from his. Her whisper was cold. "Break the clock and I am free. But I will not thank you. I will take what I was denied." Daniel struggled, his arms locked. His eyes met Sarah's desperate. Sarah stepped forward, her voice firm though her body shook. "If anyone must suffer, take me. Not him." The woman's hollow eyes shifted to Sarah. For a moment, her rage softened, her face flickering between sorrow and anger. Her whisper came like a sigh. "They locked me away. Your ancestors. They chose silence, and now you would choose sacrifice." The grip on Daniel loosened. He stumbled back, gasping. Sarah grabbed his arm and pulled him close. But the woman was not finished. She raised both hands and the attic split with force. The clock lifted into the air, glowing like fire, its hands twitching madly. "Tick, tick, tick!" Sarah cried out. "Daniel, run!" But Daniel stood firm. His fear burned into anger. "No, I'm not running anymore." He grabbed the hammer again and faced the floating clock. The woman screamed, rushing toward him like a storm of shadows. In that moment, Daniel swung. The hammer smashed against the clock with a deafening crack. The glass shattered, the golden hands flying across the room. Light burst out, blinding them both. The woman's scream shook the house to its bones. Her shadow twisted, tearing itself apart, her figure splitting between rage and release. Then, silence. The attic fell still. The flames, the smoke, the shadows, all gone. The broken pieces of the clock lay scattered on the floor, lifeless. Sarah and Daniel stood together, their breaths ragged. Daniel whispered, "We did it. She's gone." But Sarah's eyes stayed fixed on the shattered clock. Her voice was quiet, heavy with fear. "No, Daniel. We didn't end it. We set her free. The house groaned deeper than ever before. The truth. The night after the clock was destroyed, the house felt different. The ticking was gone. The shadows stayed in their corners. For the first time in weeks, Daniel thought maybe it was over. He slept deeply, dreaming of nothing. But Sarah did not sleep. She sat by the window, staring at the broken pieces of the clock on the table. Something about the silence felt wrong. It was too heavy, too final, like the pause before a storm. At dawn, Daniel stumbled into the kitchen. "We're free now," he said, rubbing his eyes. Sarah shook her head. "No, she's out." Daniel frowned. "But we smashed the clock. That was her prison. It's over." Sarah's gaze did not leave the shards of glass. "A prison keeps someone in. But when you destroy it, you don't erase them. You release them." Before Daniel could argue, the wall shook. A sharp crack echoed through the house and a line split across the ceiling. Dust fell like ash, and then came the voice. Clear now, strong, no longer broken. "I'm not bound." Daniel froze. The voice wasn't whispering anymore. It was inside the house, inside the air. It was everywhere. Sarah whispered, "She's stronger now." That evening, Sarah and Daniel searched through the letters again, desperate for answers. They read every faded line, every trembling word, but nothing explained who the woman truly was. Only warnings. Frustrated, Daniel tore through the attic again. Beneath the floorboards, he found a small wooden box, blackened by fire but still whole. Inside was a diary. The handwriting was finer, more careful than the letters. The pages smelled of smoke and age. Daniel and Sarah sat side by side, reading the words aloud. "My name is Eliza. I was promised love, but I was betrayed. They locked me away in this house, saying I was cursed. They feared me. They silenced me. But I will not be forgotten. My blood will remember." Sarah's breath caught. "Eliza, she's one of us." Daniel's eyes widened. "Our family?" Sarah nodded slowly. "My grandmother spoke that name once. She said never to repeat it. Eliza was my great-great-aunt." Daniel's mind spun. "So she's our ancestor. That's why she called us blood." They turned another page. At 12:47 time bends. I can walk between seconds, between breaths. They feared this gift. They hated me for it. So they locked me in it. But time is mine. One day my blood will set me free." Daniel whispered. "That's the locked hour." She wasn't cursed. She had power. Sarah closed the diary, her hands shaking. Power that destroyed her, and now it will destroy us. Before they could say more, the air shifted. The house darkened, though it was midday. A chill swept through every room, and then she appeared, Eliza. Not as a shadow this time, but standing in the kitchen doorway. Her pale face was clearer, her glowing eyes sharper. Her torn dress flowed as if moved by an invisible wind. Daniel stood frozen. Sarah stepped forward. "Eliza," she whispered, her voice trembling. "We know who you are. You don't have to hurt us." Eliza's smile was thin, almost human. "They silenced me. They burned me, but you freed me." Her voice grew sharper. "And now you will carry me." Daniel backed away. "Carry you? What does that mean?" Eliza's eyes locked on him. "My blood. My time, my hour. It belongs in you." Suddenly, Daniel felt his chest tighten. The air thickened, pressing against his lungs. He gasped, falling to his knees. His vision blurred. Sarah screamed and ran to him. "Stop, leave him alone. If you want someone, take me." Eliza's head tilted, her glowing eyes softening for a moment. "You would sacrifice yourself?" Sarah's tears streamed down her face. "He's just a boy. Take me." Eliza's expression shifted, sorrow flickering across her pale face. For a heartbeat, she looked almost human again. But then her voice hardened. "I do not want sacrifice. I want continuation. My blood must live in time again." Daniel's vision cleared enough to see Eliza's figure moving closer. He whispered, his voice weak. "She wants me to become her." Sarah shook her head violently. "No, I won't let you." Eliza raised her hand. The broken clock pieces on the table lifted into the air, glowing with faint light. The golden hands twisted, bending back toward 12:47, tick, tick, tick. The sound filled the house again. Eliza's voice echoed, strong and certain. "The locked hour is open. One of you will take my place. One of you will walk where time bends." Sarah clutched Daniel's hand. "You don't have to listen to her. We will find another way." But deep inside, Daniel felt the pull. The ticking grew louder in his head, matching his heartbeat. He could almost see it. Time splitting like glass, seconds stretching, bending, waiting for him to step inside. Eliza reached out her pale hand. Choose, blood of mine. Stay weak or take the hour. The room trembled. The walls cracked. The house itself seemed to lean closer, listening, waiting. Daniel's breath came in gasps. His hand shook in his mother's grip, and for the first time he wasn't sure if the choice. The house shook as if the ground itself wanted to split open. The broken pieces of the clock floated in the air, glowing with an unnatural light. The golden hands twisted and snapped, spinning but always returning to the cursed time. 12:47. Sarah held Daniel's arm tightly, her nails digging into his skin. Don't listen to her, she begged. She wants to use you. But Daniel's eyes were fixed on Eliza. The pale woman stood tall in the flickering glow, her torn dress swaying in a wind that wasn't there. Her voice was steady, commanding. You feel it, don't you? The pull of the hour? It belongs to you now. You are my blood. My gift is your gift. Daniel's chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. His head was filled with the ticking, louder and louder, echoing inside his skull. It wasn't only sound anymore, it was rhythm, a heartbeat not his own. Tick, tick, tick. Sarah stepped in front of him, shielding him with her body. He's just a boy. Leave him alone. Eliza's hollow eyes softened for a moment. I was just a girl when they locked me away. Age means nothing in the hour. Only blood matters. Only will matters, Daniel whispered. What happens if I take it? Eliza's smile widened. You walk where no one else can walk. Between seconds, between breaths, time bends to you. You will never be powerless again. Sarah's voice cracked with desperation. And if he refuses? The air around them groaned. The walls bent inward, wood splitting, glass cracking. Eliza's eyes flared. Then the house will take him anyway. The hour will not stay empty. Someone must hold it, always. Daniel shook his head. There has to be another way. Some way to end it. Eliza tilted her head. End it? Time never ends. It only changes. Choose, Daniel. Will you carry me forward, or will the house bury you with me? The floor buckled beneath them. Sarah pulled Daniel back as flames burst through the cracks in the boards. But these were not normal flames. They glowed cold, blue and white, burning without heat. They formed a circle, trapping the three of them inside. Daniel's mind raced. He looked at his mother, tears streaking her face, her arms shaking as she held onto him. He looked at Eliza, her figure flickering between beauty and horror, victim and monster. Two paths, neither safe, neither right. Eliza reached out her pale hand. Take my gift. Sarah grabbed Daniel's shoulders. Don't, please don't. The ticking grew louder. It filled his chest, his veins, his head. The house itself seemed to lean closer, waiting for his choice. Daniel closed his eyes. For a moment, he imagined stepping into that hour, walking through frozen time, powerful and untouchable. No more fear, no more helplessness. But then he saw his mother's face, the fear, the love, the strength she had carried alone all her life. He realized what the choice truly meant. He opened his eyes and stared at Eliza. No, I won't carry you. I won't be your prisoner. Eliza's expression twisted. Her voice split, half scream, half sob. Then you will burn with me. The floor cracked wide. The circle of cold fire surged higher. Daniel pulled free from his mother's arms and grabbed one of the golden clock hands still glowing in the air. The metal burned against his palm, but he held tight. He shouted above the roar. If the hour must have someone, then let it end with me. Sarah screamed, No! Daniel plunged the golden hand into the floor. Light exploded. The house roared as if alive, every wall trembling, every window shattering outward. Eliza shrieked, her shadow tearing apart, her body splitting into smoke and ash. No! Time is mine, she screamed before the light swallowed her whole. Then silence. The fire vanished. The air grew still. The broken pieces of the clock lay dead on the floor, no longer glowing. Sarah crawled toward Daniel, pulling him into her arms. His eyes were closed, his hand still clutching the broken clock hand. She shook him, calling his name again and again until his eyelids fluttered. He whispered, his voice weak but alive. It's over. Tears ran down Sarah's face as she held him close. Yes, it's over. But even as she said the words, her eyes drifted to the attic walls. Cracks remained, stretching like veins through the wood. The house groaned one last time, low and long as if sighing, and in the quiet a single sound echoed faintly. Tick. Sarah froze. Her breath caught. Tick. tick. Daniel stirred in her arms. "Did you hear that?" Sarah didn't answer. She pulled him tighter, her eyes locked on the broken clock pieces that should have been silent. Tick, tick. The golden hand